Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And a happy Thorsday to all who celebrate our guy Thor Nystrom from Matthew Berry's FantasyLife.com. How are you, sir, on this glorious Thorsday?
I'm doing great, boys. We got all the highlights coming out. We got McCarthy new highlights every single day. It's a good time of the year.
All those interceptions he's throwing at practice too. Yeah, just
Colin
really
Cowherd
some bad
is,
reads.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm a little nervous. I'm with Colin. I feel like I don't know, man.
Don't let him get to you, Thor.
You're already throwing intercept. By the way, 7-on-7. You're only facing 7 defenders. What happens when they put 11 defenders out there? How many picks is he gonna throw then? So we're gonna play a clip and hopefully get Thor riled up about it here. But a shout out first to Federated Mutual Insurance Company. In fact, coming up here this summer, it's the 21st annual Federated Challenge supporting Big Brothers, Big Sisters, hosted by Minnesota's own Federated Insurance. It's a 2-day gala, right? Gala.
Yeah.
And golf fundraising event. They've raised almost $60 million.
It's a 2-day event, Phil.
It's a two-day situation. They've raised almost $60 million for youth mentoring since 2005. 100% of that money goes directly to Big Brothers, Big Sisters and the Federated Challenge Scholarship Program. And this year's gala or event is it's at St. Paul River Center on July 27th. And the golf is on the 28th at Hazeltine National. You can visit federatedchallenge.org to become a sponsor. Okay.
Football.
So it's about a minute long, so strap in here for just a minute. This is Colin Cowherd on JJ McCarthy, and then we'll get Thor's reaction.
JJ McCarthy threw a pick for a third straight day. There's so much mystery here. Why does Minnesota keep flirting with other quarterbacks? And there's too many conflicting reports on JJ McCarthy. You know, there's one or two things I never buy. I never buy this when you say this about a quarterback. That guy is a winner. Everybody under Jim Harbaugh and Steve Spurrier and Nick Saban's a winner. I don't want to hear that. If you go back and look, his arm is modest. His escapability is modest. His release wasn't super quick. There is no great trait. That's why I was always a Darnold fan. Darnold is tough with a big arm. He can be reckless, but there are times you watch Darnold, his ability to make big throws while moving is special. I don't get McCarthy's wow trait.
There isn't anything he doesn't do well. He has a big arm. He's mobile. He can process. He showed everything at Michigan.
He go read the scout. He doesn't have a big arm. He does not have a big arm.
Good enough arm. A good enough NFL arm.
His arm is considered modest. It is a middle of the pack arm, middle of the pack escapability. In fact, they question his release. His release at times could be a little plodding.
All right, Thor, how does it feel, Colin trashing your biological son, JJ McCarthy?
He's speaking out of ignorance. He doesn't know the subjects he's talking about because he's never watched McCarthy play. You know, in that clip, when there's the pushback, he says, oh, it's the scouting reports. Read the scouting report. No, pal, watch the game. Watch him play. Turn on the TV.
Yeah, pal.
You wouldn't think he had a modest arm or modest escapability. What a joke. He's one of the best scrambling quarterbacks who's come out in the past 10 years. But by the numbers as well, you know, 2023, 72.3% completion percentage overall against the hardest strength of schedule any quarterback played that year. But he was 71.4% while scrambling.
And by the way, I think for context, it's hard to get to like 55, 60% for most top college quarterbacks as scramblers, right? If you look at some of the other quarterbacks in that draft class, that's like in context, that 71.5% scrambling wasn't like, you know, behind Jaden Daniels 80%. I think it was number one by a bullet or two above the Drake Mays and the Jaden Daniels of that draft class.
Yeah, and his escapability is one of the best parts of JJ's game. The worst part of Sam's game is creating off script. So I don't know what Cowherd's saying of, oh, Sam, when he's on the move, really good. No, when he's pushed off his spot, he's not. JJ, that's one of the best parts of his game. is moving around, scrambling around, and then putting the ball wherever he wants on the move. That's one of the special traits about him. It's hard to respond to someone that doesn't know the subject that they're talking about. Yeah,
all right. Yeah, let's break this down, because this is as much garbage as I've heard. And the problem is, so if I'm not mistaken, doesn't Cowherd trust on and rely on, from a scouting standpoint, a guy who's pretty well respected by the name of Greg Cosell?
Yeah, he probably does.
Okay, I think that's his guy. Okay, let me read you the 33rd team, Greg Cosell, number one weakness of JJ McCarthy going into the draft, okay? Doesn't have a naturally strong arm. Needs a firm base with his front foot pointing to the target to drive the ball with velocity. Some deeper, intermediate, and deep throws lose energy on the back end. Has a good arm, but not an explosive arm. Okay, I've seen 4 practices. I will give you the scouting report. This is the problem. These people have, and I think part of it is, and Thor, no insult to your business, but I think watching film, just game film, does not tell you a story. It's my opinion, and I know this is not possible, okay? But if you want to really evaluate a quarterback, you need to be at practices, and not pro days, not scripted pro days. You need to be at practices to see what guys are good at, to see. In quarterback play, there is arm strength, there is footwork, which is essential, there is processing. Like Greg Cosell watched film of Michigan games and came away with this, and he works hard, so he's not like lying. He's seeing what he's seeing, but what he is seeing is mistaken. Let me give you the scouting report 4 practices in. And Thor, I brought some of this up with Phil and Dex on Purple Daily yesterday, but I've seen 2 minicamp practices, 2 OTAs. Intermediate arm strength is phenomenal, along with accuracy. He throws, and this is where Darnold scuffled here because he did have a big arm, but his confidence and his actual ability to pull the trigger with accuracy was not great. McCarthy's accuracy and arm strength on those throws, and by the way, not all throws are created equal. This also drives me crazy. He's got a big arm, so he can just throw the ball. McCarthy is superior there. In Cousins' case, McCarthy's willing to throw balls that Cousins didn't. And JJ McCarthy is going to be intercepted at times, but he's also going to throw passes that we bitched and moaned about for how long that weren't thrown. And guess what? Justin Jefferson, Addison Hawkinson's going to catch these. All right, let's talk about the deep ball. The deep ball, it's not arm strength. It's a little bit of the accuracy and the touch, which will come. The deep ball is not as good, but it has nothing to do with the fact he can't throw it. It has to do with the fact that a quarterback, not all quarterbacks enter the league perfect on every pass, okay? So I think that the deep ball will come, and as Phil and I discussed yesterday, I'll take the intermediate ability immediately over the deep ball, because look at the percentages of the throws, okay? And by the way, you've got receivers who can adjust. You know who else didn't throw a great deep ball newsflash, ladies and gentlemen? Randall Cunningham. He threw it up for Moss. Go back and watch those throws, okay? Randy Moss, like Jefferson, was special. He made adjustments on plays, but like Randall Cunningham did not throw. Darnold threw as nice a deep ball as I've ever seen. So I give him that. Last thing, the sideline passes. Let's talk about that. And I did not talk about this yesterday, but I've seen enough now to judge it. And I think this is why in college, on college film, McCarthy's ability to throw to the sideline was questioned. It's not arm strength at all. It is 2 things. One is, and he's still honing this, a little bit of footwork. His footwork is being worked on, okay? Footwork is as important in some cases as your arm because it determines a ton of things. So footwork, which is being worked on, but unlike accuracy and arm strength, footwork can be fixed. The other thing, and this is where he's going to have to make some strides here, Thorsky, is the decisiveness of that pass. He has more confidence throwing the ball between the hashes right now on a line than he does throwing to the sideline. And where Cosell's or where Cowherd's right that he got it from Cosell is there can be a little bit of indecision hitch at times on those throws. Again, it can be fixed. In other words, the scouting report sucked. The scouting reports were wrong. I can tell you after 4 practices exactly what I see. And I'm not saying he's perfect, but I'm saying the public was fed, unfortunately, a load of doo-doo when it comes to McCarthy.
Yeah, they sure were. Yeah, and the first rant that I had on McCarthy in January of 2024, about how everyone's wrong about him. Late second round or early third round is how he was looked at coming into that draft process. It was just a bunch of bad narratives, and the arm strength one being one of them. But yeah, that was sort of what the public was led to believe about his game, and then all of a sudden you had all these bad narratives that I ended up arguing against ever since.
Didn't you go on Colin's his on the Volume, his podcast, for like 40 or 45 minutes?
Right before
you guys
the 2024 draft.
And it was like a 45-minute JJ McCarthy episode, right? Before he was ever a Viking, by the way. You were just like, whoa, I see something as someone who evaluates the draft. Well, can you just what did he push back in that episode? I did listen to it, but I'm trying to remember the tone of the conversation.
Well, he knew that I kind of like McCarthy, so he was, sort of setting it up like he doesn't believe in McCarthy. And yeah, I gave him the reasons for why McCarthy was number 3 overall on my draft board that year. And yeah, the narratives that I was hearing from Colin, it was, similar to what I'd heard, to your point, from Greg Cosell. That was something earlier in the spring that I had responded to, was Greg Cosell's scouting report of JJ McCarthy, where he seemed to be watching a different Michigan quarterback altogether. I read that and was like, you didn't, I don't know another way to say it. You didn't watch the same player that I did.
Yeah, I think, we did an episode earlier this week. I think it was on Tuesday, and I gave these guys, forget about like the back of the football card stats, 4,000 yards, like that stuff will come if the core stuff is right. And I gave these guys and the audience, here are 5 statistics or statistical categories that actually matter when tracking JJ McCarthy from this point going forward. And one of them was performance on third down, specifically third and they know you're going to pass. So like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. And what's interesting, not everything translates from college, but as you're looking for the translatable things, I don't really care about how many yards you threw for at Michigan. What I do care about is how did you do on 3rd and 8 when Penn State knew you had, like they know you're passing. Alabama knows you're passing. And the only quarterback from the 2024 draft class that was better than JJ McCarthy on third down, passer rating and first down conversion rate on passes was Jaden Daniels. It was Jaden Daniels and JJ McCarthy were awesome on third down. And according to Nick Miller from Viking Age, and I do trust this research, he did a bunch of it leading up to every draft, McCarthy had a 73% completion percentage on 3rd and 7+ his last year at Michigan. So all these knocks of like, well, he doesn't throw for a lot of yards. They run the ball a lot. Those are accurate things. And if you're Michigan and you're trying to win the college football national championship and you can run the ball down teams' throats, you should. You should run the ball. Like, your goal at Michigan isn't to make JJ McCarthy a 6,000-yard passer. It's to win a championship. But when it's 3rd and 9 and 3rd and 10, the run game gets stripped away. A lot of things get stripped away. And you've got NFL players on the other side for some of these teams he's facing that know you're dropping back and passing. So he was great on 3rd and long, and he was also, Thor, great when under pressure. Almost every measurement when he was pressured, which again wasn't as often because it's Michigan, but when he was pressured, he was incredible. When he was scrambling, he was incredible. To me, those are translatable things. And also, like, to be great on third and must pass, to be great when you're scrambling, to be great when you're under pressure, you probably have to have a certain level of high-end arm strength to make those throws off platform, right?
You definitely do. And, as we talked about, McCarthy was 1 mile per hour off the NFL Combine max velo record as well, right? The 2 guys that were tied for the record there, Josh Allen and Joe Milton. I don't know how you question his arm strength. You can question some of the nuanced stuff. Judd's talking about the downfield stuff. We talked right when they drafted him about some mechanical tweaks you're going to make to reduce some of the velocity, subtract some of that for arc, right? And dropping it in. But yeah, and some of the stuff with the drive foot, where he would swing it sometimes, that goes to what Judd was talking about with the sideline throws in particular, especially to the left. But you've seen that work. Like when you watch his throws now, he is not swinging that as much. So you're already seeing the work that they've done with his mechanics to improve some of those areas.
And this is where O'Connell becomes so fundamentally important too, because you have a guy that can see the flaws instantly and fix them. But again, every one of the flaws that I've seen is fixable. Like if you don't have a good arm, I can't help you. If you can't hit the broadside of a barn, most likely I can't help you. And one thing that really frustrates me though is the conversation about arm strength in the context of, for some reason, we just assume everything is like every pass is arm strength, right? So if you can throw the ball deep, you've got arm strength. And you just said it. The most important thing here, too, is the different types of throws, right? Like Warren Moon, as I recall, threw the ball like McCarthy does, which was on a line, and it was a beautiful pass. Did he have the perfect arcing deep ball? I don't remember. I don't know. And Cunningham made a living off of Moss in 98, but go back and look at the passes too and the adjustments. I would much rather ask Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to adjust 50 yards downfield than to have JJ sailing Jefferson on a 15 to 18 yard route. And so we just contextualize this all as the same, and it's not the same. And look, you can tell from practices a lot. Like with Tavares Jackson, arm strength from here to eternity. Accuracy a problem. Reading the play was a problem. And I actually think the fact that JJ is so decisive on the intermediate passes over the middle, it gives me a lot of confidence that the stuff to the sideline is going to improve a lot, because to me, that's the hardest pass. Over the middle, 15 yards. You are essentially trying to put the ball, first of all, in a place where the receiver is going to be, not where the receiver is yet. And you're usually doing it when you're making that pass between two guys. So if you trust yourself and you decisively make that pass, I don't think there's a lot of passes when push comes to shove in your career that you cannot make.
Yeah, and it changes, you think about it like basketball and the spacing on the court. We're in the basketball playoffs now. You hear a lot about that and what sharpshooters do for spacing on the court. The ability to thrive in the intermediate sector between the hashes, it's so important, not just because you can paper cut the defense all game and you're getting closer to the chains, makes the offense more efficient. It's also because you force the defense. They have to now defend that sector. That's how you get the more one-on-one shots downtown. Judd, you were mentioning that Sam wasn't as good with those intermediate throws, but he was a better downfield passer. But because of that quirk of his game, there was a higher degree of difficulty on his downtown balls because they always got the two high safeties. And generally, the smart defensive opponents were playing the one over the top help on Jefferson the whole game, a de facto double team the entire game, because they didn't have to defend the intermediate sector as much. With McCarthy, you're going to see more single high safety because you have to bring more people up to address the fact that he will just paper cut us all game long in the intermediate sector. And then, of course, you're going to have the run game going. You have to respect his legs as well. That's how you get open, or you get the one-on-one downtown shots too. One of the NFL's best receiving cores.
Yeah, and again, like sifting through the things and the statistics that matter and don't from his time at Michigan, the intermediate stuff. This was from Underdog, actually had this back in February of 2024. Throws over the middle of the field on crossing routes or dig routes. That's right, dig routes.
Football. Yeah.
Last year's draft class. Number 1, most volume of those throws, JJ McCarthy. Number 2, Drake May. So it makes sense that the Vikings were looking at, the two guys that are really good at those, like over the middle, crowded field. You got to throw it to a window before a receiver breaks on a dig route, crossing route. And then it was Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels did not throw many of them. But the Vikings were like, we know all the noisy stuff over here. Can he operate and dissect the meat and potatoes of our offense here? Kevin O'Connell speaking. The heartbeat of our offense is the 15-yard pass with traffic. And obviously, if you can hit a home run ball, awesome. You're going to throw 3 of those a game too, but you're going to throw 20 of these things. So it's a lot more important. Thor, would you be so kind as to grace us with your presence through some Judd's camp notes here from
I'd love
yesterday's practice?
I've been waiting. Yeah, let's do it.
So Judd's camp notes, handwritten with his multicolored pen, presented in part by Meadows at Mystic. You could bring that if we could ever get Judd to golf again. You could bring the multicolored pen, red for bogeys or worse. Probably just use the red pen, I guess.
Just use the
I was
red.
going to say,
Yeah,
what am I
yeah.
going to use? Green
Just use the
for?
red. Use the-
I haven't seen one of those multicolored ink things like since I was in high school. Judd, that's amazing.
Thor, that's what I said when he broke that out. Like, I legit don't think I have seen that since I've been like 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
I've fallen
It's
in love
incredible.
with it too. I've fallen in love.
I'll use the red. In fact, I'll use even green to like mark like what should be a birdie as a triple bogey, because that's what I do when I golf. So go to Golf the Meadows to book that tee time, and whether you're shooting, over 100 like Dex tweets, and whether you're breaking 80, maybe even shooting the course record or something, breaking 70, you can do that at the Meadows at Mystic Lake. Go to golfthemeadows.com to book that next tee time. That's golfthemeadows.com.
Also, Dennis Kirk is here for riding season. Whatever it is that you ride, motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs, dirt bikes. Hell, maybe you are a sicko and you're already looking ahead to snowmobile season. Just shame on you. DennisKirk.com is your place to check out over 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories. Same-day shipping on orders placed by 6 p.m. Central Time and free shipping on orders over $89. DennisKirk.com. Check them out. DennisKirk.com for riding season. All right, Judd's camp notes. What do you got for us?
If I may, just one more thought. Oh, it came to me off what Thor said on the McCarthy thread as well.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, be prepared for the Vikings to be in the top of the league in play action strikes. Because, again, they have a run game. They have a guy who you have to fear up in the box, 15 to 18 yards out. Again, the Darnold deep ball was great, and he would split safeties, or he would split guys at times. But imagine this. Everyone has to come up in the box. They suck up towards the LOS, right, Thor? Mm-hmm. And now you go Jordan Mason, play action. Guys bite. The linebackers freeze. Everybody sort of freezes.
What do we do?
Jefferson, Addison, right by them. You don't need to have the prettiest damn deep ball to make that a touchdown. I think this whole threat, and this is where the run game being good again, or being good really for the first time with O'Connell, but this is where the run game being a threat, and also the threat of, oh my God, Justin Jefferson is going to beat us at 18 yards becomes, oh no. You think that. We're going deep. I think the play action becomes an enormous threat if it's used.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and they're going to go closer to what McCarthy did 2023 Michigan, running a little bit more on the early downs. The Josh Oliver extension signals that they're going to continue to use the 12 personnel. And yeah, McCarthy is great on those play action concepts. I mean, to your point, you sell the thing, you get one false step up, or you even get that half second of indecision from the second level players, and then you just fling it in right over their heads, on those intermediate concepts between the hashes, beat the safeties coming forward. That's what he does.
Judd, just for context here, stats that matter, going back to our Tuesday episode, this was not part of it, but when he dropped back his last year at Michigan on play action, JJ McCarthy completed, and again, it's like Michigan has a great run game. Of course, when they run play action, you're going to respect it. The Vikings need to get there with their running game. But he completed 75% of his passes on play action, 1 interception, and an NFL passer rating of 131.7.
Not bad. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
I love it. Okay, camp notes time. So they actually had a fairly brief Wednesday practice. I think, and I'm going to try and ask O'Connell about this because he does talk after the practice today, but I think because the attendance at OTAs was so good, I don't think that you're forced to go as hard in minicamp because the OTA practices are basically the same thing. So like if Justin Jefferson's there, if your whole team is there, you don't have to go as hard. Yesterday, a lot of red zone work. I'll get to that in a second. But I want to start with this because we talked to him after practice, and I think we are sitting on a potentially very big season in which he is used in multiple ways for one Dallas Turner. First of all, my sense last year was he didn't lose confidence. I think he would have liked to play more, but he never seemed defeated. It didn't seem like, oh my God, I thought this and I got that. Everything he says, if true, is he is basically a sponge. He's like, I learned a ton. I can learn a ton. And in the practices thus far, he is being used quite a bit. He's getting first team reps, had a very nice pass deflection in the Tuesday practice. I think we are sitting on Dallas Turner being unveiled. And look, Grenard's really good. Van Ginkel's good. So I'm not saying that someone's playing time is going down. Just be aware of this. Brian Flores likes to put different ingredients in the stew every season. And I think one of the ingredients that we are looking at in 2025, two things. I think we're going to see more defensive linemen used at times because they've improved that. But I also think we are going to see Van Ginkel, Grenard, and Turner on the field more often than last year. And that's not even accounting for the fact that Turner basically steps into the Pat Jones role.
That was going to be my question, which is what so you've got Grenard and Van Ginkel as your starting edge guys. What is the path to like 600 or 700 snaps as opposed to the 250 or whatever he got last year, Dallas Turner? Is it third edge rusher on the field, or is it just spelling those starters? I mean, Van Ginkel's like 30.
Yeah.
Is it just rotational stuff?
I think it's both. I don't think Pat Jones was a guy that they found a really nice, and credit to them, role for. I think when it comes to Turner, they feel that there is more there. He is bigger in a good way, but he's pretty much a freak athlete, and I think he can do more things. And so I don't know exactly what the unveiling in special packages looks like yet, but I can see some things, some machinations going on in these practices. I think Dallas Turner is going to be used in some roles that opposing teams have not seen on film, which is sort of the Flores secret ingredient for the first portion of a season.
Yeah. Thor?
He's going to help them Turner be more multiple. I love everything Judd's hearing or saying. And you know, that's the hope there. But both taking the Pat Jones role from last year, you suck up those snaps, but then also, again, the ability to be more multiple, playing those three guys on the field at the same time. When you go the fourth down defensive lineman, that's when you can do that, right? So switching between the three, the four, depending on the look that you get, depending on what Flores wants to do in game. And you think about that, like on the other side, what we were talking about being multiple on offense between the Oliver re-signing, the three wide receiver sets that they do. The Vikings offense was one of the most even distributions in the NFL last year between three wide receiver sets and 12 personnel. And Flores is the mad scientist. And, you know, on Twitter, I was saying, this is the art of war. You make the opponent prepare for everything, and then you're willing to call any play at any time. And both O'Connell and Flores fit that descriptor.
Oh, I love that. The art of war. All right. Next thing, linebacker related, but really special teams. So I think we did an episode on this, or certainly discussed it maybe last week. And I did my three way too early key things for special teams a couple weeks ago. But Matt Daniels, the special teams coordinator, talked yesterday. And, you know, if you look at the big picture, special teams needs to improve. Like, they've got the kicking thing, it looks like, right? Punting thing's questionable, but I'm just saying, like, the coverage, everything. There's more explosive plays to be had, and there are more plays to be made. And I think Eric Wilson, according to what Daniel said, is the key addition special teams. He's played there a ton. If you look at his snap count, he played a ton of snaps at linebacker with the Packers in 2024 and a ton of special team snaps. And Daniels raved about how good he is on special teams, about how, in fact, there was a period after the practice yesterday where Wilson kept a bunch of the special teams guys out on the field to work on stuff.
Yeah.
So he's basically, as Daniel said, a pseudo coach. But I think Eric Wilson, who is going to play, in my opinion, as well at linebacker, but I think that if you are going to see an improvement on special teams, which, in my opinion, if this is going to be a playoff team that makes a run, they need to improve there. Eric Wilson is a absolutely key guy.
Very good special teamer, and the linebacker depth needed help. So if he emerges there as a good depth piece, that would really help.
Yeah, special teams is sometimes hard to quantify, especially now with like the new kickoff. It's kind of this adjustment period, but it does feel like it's an under talked about theme from there's a punting competition Yeah, we think that they found a kicker that's going to last here. Big Leg Bill, our guy.
Will the thrill.
But you never know with kickers. And they've had a couple special teams aces here and there in terms of just guys who can hunt down and tackle. But yeah, I don't think anyone would look at the Vikings 4 phases and say that's one of the best special teams units in the entire league. So maybe Eric Wilson can come and help some of that.
Let's talk kickoff returns too, because keep in mind the kickoff now, the touchback is going to the 35. So it incentivizes the kickoff team to not give you a touchback. We are trying to get the kickoff back into the game. And the Vikings have been, I mean, you don't return a ton previously, and they've been okay. Isaiah Rodgers not only is going to, I think, start a corner, but he is Matt Daniels' number 1 kickoff return guy. How do I know? Because I asked him. And I was very excited.
He just gave it, you just spilled it just like that.
I said,
loose lips sink ships. I'm a little nervous about
this. This was a very in-depth discussion in which I said, do you think that you will be allowed to use him? Because Flores and O'Connell could kibosh it and say, no, we're not going to risk a starting cornerback returning kicks. But the price of poker has gone up. Returning kicks is more important now. And Daniel said, I sure hope so, and started to talk about the fact is Isaiah Rodgers on kickoff returns has, first of all, he can put his foot in the ground and adjust and move. And he's a little slippery, which is great. And so I said at one point, he looks comfortable there. Because Matt and I have both seen a lot of guys that don't, okay? And he agreed completely. And he also said, and I did not know this, so the real concern in the new kickoff, and this must be an internal thing, I don't think it's known publicly, but the real concern is the secondary guys. So it's 2 guys back now, not 1 guy. The real concern is what they call the off guy. So the guy that doesn't catch the kickoff is getting hurt more than anyone, it sounds like, because he's blocking. And if you think about it, it makes sense. He's blocking with a head of steam. So like he's running to go block. He's not stationary. And so it would be imperative that Isaiah Rodgers actually gets to return the kicks. You do not want him risking, for instance, a concussion or a twisted ankle or a knee. But, right now with how the running back room shakes out, I could see a world where your off guy, Ty Chandler, and Isaiah Rodgers is the guy that they want to return kicks. And the only question is, will the coaching staff above Matt Daniels allow that?
I like it. And Isaiah Rodgers had success returning kicks in the past. As a rookie with Indianapolis back in 2020, had a kick return touchdown. He averaged 28.8 yards per kick return, 26.4 the next year, 25.1 the year after that. And he returned 8 kicks last year for Philadelphia. Not as many as he had done with Indy beforehand, but this is a guy who every active year he's had in the NFL, he's returned kicks. So I like the inclination.
I'm just trying to find any trends from last year on which positions these teams are leaning heavily on as kick returners with the new format. It's a lot more wide receivers than I'm literally just looking at most kick return yards by players, and it's mostly receivers and running backs, obviously. But is it Keyshawn Nixon from the Packers was 6th in return yardage, kick return yardage. He's a cornerback.
Yeah, he's got some moves.
And then D. Williams, who played on a couple different teams, defensive back. And I might be missing one. Brandon Codrington from Buffalo had 11 kick returns for like 300 yards. So it's pretty rare that there's any cornerbacks or defensive backs back there. And maybe that's the reason. Like, he's already gassed from playing 12 defensive plays on this series over here. So you got to give him a break somewhere.
Let's go to punt returns. Just a quick thing here. First of all, there's a bunch of guys in the mix potentially. They definitely, I don't think, are close to being set there. Keep an eye on Silas Bolden, though, who is a long shot to make the roster, a receiver signed after the draft. But the interesting thing here is he's probably one of the more credible punt return guys that they have. And they have shown a willingness in the past, certainly, with this administration, to keep an undrafted guy. I mean, undrafted guys, or a couple of them, have made the 53 before. keep an eye on Bolden. And I finally got an answer that I have been longing for, I've been asking for, which is, what do you look for in a punt returner beyond being able to simply catch the ball? Because if you don't have great hands, I don't care if you've got Devin Hester's legs. You're going to fail because you're going to fumble it. And Daniel said, one of the things he said, if you watch, and I've had no clue, but it's a great point, and Hester had this. He said, if you watch the successful punt returners, their greatest asset is they can begin to move their body, move their legs before they catch the ball or as. So like the gunner misses them. Because if you catch the ball stationary, the gunners are on you, right? Guys are on you. But if you catch the ball and you're shifting out of your current stance and you catch the ball and go, guys are going to dive and miss you because they dive at you.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Dude, I want to give you some context on top of that too, all right? Love me some Brandon Powell, okay? Brandon Powell, good solid football player, right? But Brandon Powell was a bad punt returner. And I think we get so focused on like the first part of what Judd said, which is, listen, we just need a guy that can catch it and not fumble, and now the possession's going the other way from the red zone and the game is turned upside down. Yeah, that is important. But of the players of every player in the NFL last year that returned at least 20 punts, and you could actually stretch this to every player that returned at least 15 punts, and I could probably keep going. Brandon Powell had the second worst yards per punt return of all of them. And so he was 7 yards per punt return. The best in the league, more than double that. So like Marvin Mims, the 22-year-old electrifying young wide receiver from Denver, he averaged 16 yards per return. Marcus Jones with New England, who's a cornerback, 15 yards per return. Khalif Raymond with Detroit, 14 yards per return. So when Detroit catches a punt, they're getting on average like an extra first down's worth of yardage to start their field position journey compared to the Vikings. These are little things in the margin that maybe you don't notice in one particular game or one particular half or whatever, but over the course of a season, that matters big time. That Detroit's punt returner, Khalif Raymond, is getting like 200 more yards over the course of a season, setting you up. It's an extra field goal because you don't have to convert that first down.
It's the 6 inches in front of your face. The inches we need are all around us.
That's right.
Wow.
Thor.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. All right, last thing. Let's end the show where we started it. JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
All right. 2 days of passing stats, folks.
And are you going to rank every throw that you've charted in 7-on-7 drills?
I'm going to give you a little something, though. First of all, yesterday, red zone work exclusively. So like a lot of work there. Again, it was a short practice, so not a ton of reps, but enough. JJ McCarthy in 7-on-7, the first drill that he took part in started at the 20, so on the edge of the red zone, 3 of 4. The second started at the 8, 3 of 4. 6 of 8 on the day. By the way, over the first 2 days of the camp, 18 of 23 for the young QB.
And how many drops?
A couple. There was a drop by Ham. Hold on a second here. I'll find that. There was a drop by CJ Ham in the first session of the red zone yesterday. There was an Aaron Jones drop on, so at least 2 drops.
So then his adjusted completion percentage would be 87%.
The things I do for this show. The things I do for this show.
Why didn't Colin Cowherd report that?
Well, and Cowherd, where I knew that he was a fraud was 3 consecutive days with picks. He's talking about practices the media watched. We don't watch 3 consecutive days. So, like, he was totally wrong. He's talking about he's talking about 2 OTAs, which were a week apart, which, by the way, they practiced in between. We just don't get access to. And then the first day of minicamp on Tuesday. So it wasn't 3 consecutive days. It was 3 different practices. Wow. For all I know, he was perfect in the rest of those practices.
Or he's throwing picks in 7 straight practices, and you just weren't there to see him. He could have been a disaster the day before.
Let me give you
Colin.
Let me give you a reoccurring theme that I saw in both days, including in the red zone yesterday, which I think is essential. And Thor and I were texting about this last night. The TJ Hawkinson factor. It just grows, boys.
Yeah.
At least twice in the red zone drills yesterday, he found him. The chemistry, the fit for the arm strength, don't sleep on Hawk and McCarthy and what they're going to bring. Just don't sleep on it.
Yeah, I love that you were calling that out, Judd, and I heard your prediction that Hawkinson's going to lead the NFL, the tight ends and receptions this coming year. I don't disagree at all. JJ and Colson Loveland, the 2023 Michigan title team, they did all kinds of damage together. That was by far JJ's favorite target to throw to. There's a lot of similarities between Hawkinson and Loveland. They play the game very similar ways, and they're going to be deployed in similar ways in that 12 personnel offense just absolutely is going to eat over the middle. The thing that we were talking about before.
Also, there was also, just going back to that last year at Michigan. So Colston Loveland had 45 catches for 649, some touchdowns. But then AJ Barner was their second tight end, and he caught 22. So McCarthy winds up, let's see here, 6, and then there was a few other random tight ends, but 66. So 70 completions out of the 240. So basically like 30% of his completions were to those tight ends, and they had some receivers on that team too. So and it was chunking too. It was 13, 14 yards per reception for those tight ends. So it wasn't just little 5 yards and get dumped on your head. It was up the seam, and it was for chunks.
Yeah, and in this case, Hawkinson being Loveland, Oliver is Barner. Right. Barner, he was the inline blocking guy. The Seahawks took him in the 3rd round of the 2024 draft. But that's what Oliver functions as. That Michigan team did not have great receivers. Roman Wilson was a 3rd round pick. Cornelius Johnson was a 7th round pick. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, obviously, way better than that. And then Michigan, that team didn't really have a good receiving back. Donovan Edwards is okay at that. But Aaron Jones, I'm going to be interested to see if JJ throws a little bit more to the running backs. Having such a skilled receiving down back like Aaron Jones, that's the first time he's working with a really, really, really good passing down back.
Yeah. Judd's camp notes on a Thorsday.
It's incredible.
That's what I got for you.
That. You see,
Judd,
this is
your
the
camp
master
notes,
at work.
I saw the picture on Twitter. It looked like almost like hieroglyphics. I've been to Egypt and the pyramids. Your camp notes, some of those pages do look like hieroglyphics.
He does do drawings instead of words sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes words don't do justice what Judd's camp notes is observing.
I got the blue, I got the green, I got the black, I got the red. I mean, it's just fantastic.
It's absolutely
multicolor
amazing.
pen, man. You can follow Thor's work at fantasylife.com. It's Matthew Berry's platform, and you can follow him on Twitter or X at ThorKU. He's out here defending the honor of Purple Daily listeners, Vikings fans, way better than the three of us cowards. You're standing up to Ross Tucker and now Colin Cowherd.
Come and get some, Colin.
All right, Thor, we'll do it again next week, man. Enjoy your weekend. For Sports Dad Judd, for Judd's camp notes, for often mustached producer Declan, I'm Phil. This is Purple Daily. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.